Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are live at 5 and you're listening to WKRP in Cincinnati. I'm just kidding. This is the National Timely Action Hour podcast. I'm your host, Aiden. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to my show today. So, we are on Season 4, Episode 4, the on-screen Doctor Who timeline, and this is a redux because I did technically go over the episodes previously. However, this is a more in-depth episode where I place them in their chronological order of events. So, with that being said, let's get this started because this is going to be a long one. So, fasten your seat belts, get a snack and a drink, get yourself cozy, and let's get into this episode of the National Timely Action Hour. And I hope you enjoy it. So the first chronological episode is The Edge of Destruction, taking place in 4 billion BC. Then we get Time Flight, which takes place in 140 million BC. Then we have An Unearthly Child, the very first episode of the show, taking place in 100,000 BC. Then we have The Mythmakers in 12,000. The Time Monster in the 1500s BC. Then we have the Romans occurring in July of 64 AD. Then we have the Fires of Pompeii on August 24th, 79. Then we have the Pandorica opens in 102. Then we have the Eaters of Light happening sometime later in the 100s. Then we have the Girl Who Died in the 800s. The Time Meddler takes place in 1066. The Magician's Apprentice in 1138. Robot of Sherwood in the autumn of 1190, The Crusade in 1192, The Time Warrior in the 1200s, The King's Demons on March 4th, 1215, Marco Polo in 1289. Can you hear me? I say that because there is a question mark in the title. In 1380 AD. The Aztecs takes place in the 1400s. The Mask of Mandragora in 1492. City of Death in 1505. Genesis of the Daleks in the 1500s. The Day of the Doctor in 1562. The Massacre between August 20th and the 24th, 1572. Then we have The Vampires of Venice in 1580, The Shakespeare Code in 1599, The Smugglers takes place in the 1600s, The Woman Who Lived in 1651, The Visitation takes place between August and September of 1666, The Witchfinders takes place sometime after that, The Curse of the Black Spot takes place in 1699, The Girl in the Fireplace takes place between 1727 and 1764 AD. The Highlanders in 1746. The Reign of Terror in 1794, July to be specific. The Mark of the Rani takes place in the 1800s. Legend of the Sea Devils in 1807. Rogue takes place in 1813. Thin Ice takes place a year later in 1814. Then in June of 1816, we have The Haunting of Villa Diodati. This is a great episode. I would definitely recommend it. Spyfall takes place in 1834. The Next Doctor on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, 1851. Flux in 1855. The Evil of the Daleks on June 2nd, 1866. The Unquiet Dead on December 24th, 1869. A Town Called Mercy in 1870. The Chase in 1872. Tooth and Claw in 1879. Empress of Mars in 1881. The Gunfighters takes place in October of that year. Ghostlight in 1883. Timelash in 85. Vincent and the Doctor takes place between the 1st and 3rd of June 1890. The Talons of Wang Chiang in 1892. The Snowmen taking place between the 23rd and 25th of December 1892. The Crimson Horror takes place in 1893. Deep Breath in the 1890s. Enlightenment on September 3rd, 1901. Flux also takes place in 1901. Horror of Fangrock in 1902. Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror in 1903. Flux also takes place in 1904. Pyramids of Mars in 1911. We have the two-parter Human Nature and the Family of Blood taking place on November 10th and 11th, 1913. Then we have Twice Upon a Time on Christmas Day, 1914. The Power of the Doctor in 1916. The Daleks' Master Plan takes place in 1921. Black Orchid on June 11th, 1925. The Giggle also takes place in 1925. The Unicorn and the Wasp is taking place on the 8th of December, 1926. The two-parter Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks takes place in 1930. The Abominable Snowmen takes place in 1935. Let's Kill Hitler in 1938. That same year we have The Angels Take Manhattan. And then we have the two-parter The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances taking place on January 20th, 1941. Victory of the Daleks takes place later that year, as well as The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. Then we have The Curse of Fenric in 1943. And then we have Spyfall also taking place in 43. Demons of the Punjab takes place on August 17th and 18th, 1947. The Idiot's Lantern on June 1st and 2nd, 1953. Rosa on November 30th and December 1st of 1955. Dreamland takes place in 1958. Delta and the Bannermen in 1959. The Devil's Cord on February 11th, 1963. An Unearthly Child also takes place on November 23rd, 1963. Remembrance of the Daleks in November of 63. The dates would be the 29th and 30th. Planet of Giants in 1964. The Daleks' Master Plan on Christmas Day, 1965. The War Machines on July 12th and 20th of 1966. And then also on the 20th we have The Faceless Ones and The Evil of the Daleks. Then The Chase takes place in 1966 and 1965. Then we have Flux taking place on November 21st, 1967. The Web of Fear in 1969. The Impossible Astronaut on April 8th, 1969. Day of the Moon in July of 69. Then in 1970 we have The Underwater Menace and Spearhead from Space. Then in 1973 we have The Invasion, The Green Death taking place in March. The Ambassadors of Death in 1973. The Three Doctors, Dimensions in Time also take place in 1973. And to wrap up that year we have The Silurians in November of 1973. And then for 1974 we have Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Inferno in July, Terror of the Autons, The Mind of Evil, and Hyde on November 25th. Then for 1975, in January we have Robot. And then we also have The Claws of Axos, Planet of the Spiders. On April 30th, we have The Daemons. Then we have Fury from the Deep. And then in 1976, we have Terror of the Zygons, The Sea Devils, The Time Monster, and The Hand of Fear. And on August 1st, 1977, we have Image of the Faendal. Then in 1977, after that, we have Modern Undead, Then in 1978 we have The Pirate Planet and the Stones of Blood. Then in 1979 we have City of Death and Shada. Then in 1980 we have The Android Invasion and The Seeds of Doom, as well as Meglos and Before the Flood. Then in 1981 we have The Keeper of Traken and Logopolis, as well as Four to Doomsday. Then in January of 1982 we have Time Flight, and in January of 83 we have Arc of Infinity. Then Modern Undead also takes place in 83, as well as Cold War. Then for 1984 we have The Awakening and Resurrection of the Daleks, as well as on May 9th Planet of Fire. And in 1985 we have The Two Doctors and Attack of the Cybermen. And in December of 1986 we have The 10th Planet and Twice Upon a Time. Then on November 7th, 1987 we have Father's Day. Then for 1988 we have The Silver Nemesis. And in 1989 we have Survival, which was the final episode of the original series before it was cancelled, but then it was brought back in 2005. And in the 90s we have Listen and Dimensions in Time in 1993, The Chase in 1996, as well as The 11th Hour and The Big Bang. Then in 1997 we have Battlefield, and on December 31st we have Doctor Who the Movie of 1999. The movie was released in 1996, but it takes place on New Year's Eve 1999. Then for 2003 we have the 40th anniversary episode Scream of the Shalka, which for a time was considered no longer canon because of the revival in 2005, but through shenanigans it's now canon again, so don't ask me why. But then for Christmas Eve 2004 we have The Church on Ruby Road. Then for March 4th and 5th 2005 we have Rose, which was the first episode of the revival. Then for March 5th 2006 we have the two-parter Aliens of London and World War III. Then in September of 2006 we have Boomtown. Then we also have The Parting of the Ways, and The Christmas Invasion takes place on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day of '06. Then in 2007 we have School Reunion, one of my favorite episodes of the revival. Then we have the two-parter Rise of the Cybermen and The Age of Steel on February 1st. Then we have Love and Monsters and the two-parter Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. Then we have the episode Smith and Jones, The Lazarus Experiment, Blink, The Sound of Drums, and The Runaway Bride on December 24th. That makes up 2007. Then in 2008 we have The Last of the Time Lords, The 11th Hour, Voyage of the Damned on December 24th and 25th. Then in 2009 we have Partners in Crime, The Sontaran Stratagem and Poison Sky two-parter. Turn Left is an alternate version of the 2000s. I wasn't sure where else to put it. Then we have the two-parter The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Then we have the Easter special Planet of the Dead on April 12th of 2009. And then we have the Christmas special The End of Time in 2009. Then we have the 11th Hour in 2010. Then we have the episode Vincent and the Doctor in 2010 and The Lodger in 2010 as well. Then we have the two-parter The Impossible Astronaut and The Wedding of River Song. Actually, no, that's not a two-parter, so scratch that. But we have those two episodes both occurring on April 22nd, 2011. Then we have Night Terrors in 2011, as well as Closing Time. Then in 2012 we have The Power of Three And Fear Her takes place on July 27th. Dalek also takes place in this year, as well as The Angels Take Manhattan. Then for 2013, we have The Bells of St. John and Dimensions in Time. Then we have the 50th anniversary special, The Day of the Doctor, taking place in September of 2013. And The Time of the Doctor on Christmas Day. Then we have Into the Dalek in 2014, as well as Listen. And in October of that year, we have The Caretaker. Then we have Flatline and In the Forest of the Night, as well as the two-parter Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Then, in 2015, we have Amy's Choice, as well as the two-parter The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar. Then we have the two-parter The Zygon Invasion and The Zygon Inversion. And then we have Face the Raven. And then in 2016, we have The Return of Dr. Mysterio, taking place on Christmas. And then we have the pilot in 2017, as well as Knock Knock and Extremis and The Pyramid at the End of the World, as well as The Lie of the Land. Then in 2018, we have The Enemy of the World and The Woman Who Fell to Earth in September. Arachnids in the UK takes place in late 2018, and It Takes You Away also takes place in 2018. Then we have the New Year's special Resolution on January 1st, 2019, as well as Spyfall in... I'm skipping ahead, but The Power of the Daleks and Spyfall both take place in 2020, as well as the two-parter The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. Can You Hear Me takes place in 2020, and Revolution of the Daleks taking place between January 1st and 3rd, 2021. Flux takes place on October 31st, November 2nd, and December 5th, 2021. Eve of the Daleks on December 31st, 2021. Fugitive of the Judoon takes place in the 2020s. Praxeus also takes place in this time. And we have The Power of the Doctor in 2022. And then we have The Star Beast, which is part of the 60th anniversary, taking place in 2023, as well as The Giggle, the final 60th anniversary of the 3 episodes in November 2023. Then we have The Church on Ruby Road taking place between December 22nd and 24th, 2023. 73 Yards in 2024. And The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death in 2024, as well as Joy to the World taking place on Christmas Day 2024 and 2025. Then we have Empire of Death in 2046 as well. Kill the Moon in 2049. The Waters of Mars on November 21st, 2059. The Daleks in January 2064. The Moon Base in 2070. The Wheel in Space in 2079. Warriors from the Deep in 2084. The Seeds of Death in 86. Nightmare of Eden in 2116. And the two-parter Under the Lake Before the Flood in 2119. The Space Pirates happens after this. Then we have The Dalek Invasion of Earth in 2167. Day of the Daleks in the 2100s, as well as Paradise Towers. Then we have The Rebel Flesh and The Almost People two-parter. Then in the 2200s we have Vengeance on Varos. Then at the end of that century, 2290, we have The Leisure Hive. And in 2310 we have The Twin Dilemma. The Androids of Terra taking place in the 2300s. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship in 2367. And Mind Warp in 2379. Then we have The Happiness Patrol happening after this. Colony in Space taking place in March 2472. The Rescue on December 20th, 2493. Tomb of the Cybermen in the 2500s, Earthshock in 2526. Then we have Frontier in Space in 2540, Planet of the Daleks in 2540 as well. Then in the 2600s we have Midnight, and then in the 2800s we have the Sensorites. In 2880 we have the Robots of Death, and in the 2900s we have the Mutants. Terror of the Verivoids takes place in 2986. State of Decay in the 3100s. The Beast Below in the 3290s. Snake Dance in 3426. Terminus in 3480. Sleep No More in the 3700s. The Curse of Peladon in 3885. The Infinite Quest in the 3900s. And then we have The Monster of Peladon in 3935. Kinda in 3984. Galaxy 4 in 4000. Mission to the Unknown also takes place in 4000. 42 takes place in the 4100s. Planet of the Ood in 4126. Joy to the World in 4202. A Christmas Carol in 4202. 4398. I beg your pardon. Destiny of the Daleks takes place in 4500. Then in 4590 we have Resurrection of the Daleks, and then afterwards we have Revelation of the Daleks. Delta and the Bannermen takes place in 4687. The Girl in the Fireplace in 5037. The two-parter Silence on the Library and Forest of the Dead in 5150. The Ice Warriors in... I beg your pardon. The Ice Warriors takes place in 5000. I skipped over that. I do apologize, as well as The Invisible Enemy. The Power of Kroll takes place after Forest of the Dead. Then we have the two-parter The Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone. Then Boom takes place on October 5th, 5087. A Good Man Goes to War in the 5100s. The Husbands of River Song takes place on Christmas Day, 5343. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe on December 24th and 25th, 5345. The Battle of Rangskor Avkolos in 5425. Then we have The Doctor's Daughter on July 24th, 6012. Then we have the Suranga Conundrum in the 6600s. Then in 16,087, we have the Ark in Space. Also that year, we have the Sontaran Experiment. Space Babies takes place in 21,506. Planet of Evil in 37,166. The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit two-parter takes place in 43,000.21 AD. The Long Game takes place in 200,000. The two-parter Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways takes place in 200,100. The Mysterious Planet in 2 million. Dragonfire also takes place in 2 million. The Ark in 10 million AD. The End of the World in 5 billion AD. Then we have New Earth in 5 billion 23. And Gridlock in 5 billion 53. Then we have Utopia in 100 trillion AD. And the rest of these episodes are in an undetermined time. So we have the Keys of Marinus, the Web Planet, the Space Museum, the Celestial Toymaker, the Savages, the Macroterror, the Dominators, the Mind Robber, the Crotons, the War Games, Carnival of Monsters, Death to the Daleks, Revenge of the Cybermen, the Brain of Morbius, the Deadly Assassin, the Face of Evil, the Sunmakers, Underworld, the Invasion of Time, the Rebos Operation, the Armageddon Factor, the Creature from the Pit, The Horns of Nimon, Full Circle, Warrior's Gate, Castrovalva, The Five Doctors, Frontios, The Ultimate Foe, Time and the Rani, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, The Night of the Doctor, The Doctor's Wife, The Girl Who Waited, The God Complex, Asylum of the Daleks, The Rings of Akaten, Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, Nightmare in Silver, The Name of the Doctor, Time Heist, Mummy on the Orient Express, Last Christmas, Heaven Sent, Hell Bent, Smile, Oxygen, the two-parter World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls, The Ghost Monument, Kerblam! There's an exclamation point at the end of that, so I had to exclaim it. Orphan 55, the two-parter Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children, Flux, Wild Blue Yonder, which is the second of the three 60th anniversary specials, and finally Dot and Bubble. Now, at the time of recording, we are a few days away from the 41st season airing, and I have not seen the 40th season yet, but I do plan to watch it, although it was already spoiled for me, but I will not in turn spoil it for you, so you don't have to worry about that. But I'm still going to watch it, and once I finish that, I'll watch season 41. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of the National Timely Action Hour podcast. Once again, my name is Aidan. If you're new to this show and want to check out more Doctor Who content or comic book content, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Leave a comment suggesting any future videos or letting me know what you guys thought of this episode. I read and respond to all of the comments, and I post the podcast on youtube.com as well as the host website Spotify. So in the YouTube version, I'll leave the links to my main YouTube channel as well as my merch store and Patreon page. So if you'd like to support the channel financially, I greatly appreciate that. But I'll also leave the links to my social media profile so you can message me and get updates on the podcast and on my YouTube channel. So thank you so much for listening, and I sincerely hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.